Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Red Alert lab. This is the video number 32. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have started working with securing Windows Server 2019 based on the recommendations of the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency of the United States. So this is the second video in securing Windows Server 2019. And we have said before that Windows Server 2019 is a very important operating system. It is installed on most of our servers, especially something like the domain controller, the DHCP, the WSOS. So we need to secure this operating system on these servers. So it's a very important thing to take into consideration. We have stopped the last time at this recommendation. It was saying that Windows Server 2019 shared user accounts must not be permitted. So what we mean by shared accounts are two or more people log in with the same user identification. So in some situations, for example in my field of work, sometimes we need to create a user in the Active Directory and give it to a couple of or give it to a department to use. So for example, if you have your front office team, for example, you need to create a user for them, so they can all use it. For example, this user, Active Directory user, we will set up an email through this user, and we will let all of the front office team to use this user to check the email of the department itself. This is done on Windows 10 workstation. So this is not a good solution to work with on Windows 10 or Windows Server, especially on Windows Server. So you should not permit the creation and the use of one Active Directory account to be used by more than one person, or more than two people. So this is not permitted. This is for the Active Directory accounts and also for the local accounts or local user accounts. So every user should have, or everyone should have his own account, or every user should has his own account. No one should share the other one's account, or we should not make one account to be used by more than one person. So this there is no way to provide for non-repudiation or individual accountability for system access and resource usage. So this, for example, one of the main points, or one of the disadvantages for sharing one account with more than one user, or with more than two or more people. For example, if some or a problem is happened, we will not know who is responsible for it, because this is account used by more than one or two people. But if every user have his own account, now we can hold him accountable for what he has done, because he is the only one that knows his account password, and for sure he will not share it with another one. So this is one of the things, not to share an account on Windows Server 2019. So this is one of the best practices to do. So shared accounts is saying if there is shared accounts, this such as required by an application. So for example, if an application that you have installed require a shared account, this should be approved by the organization, and this should also be documented. You should have a documentation for this user, and you should state the reason, and this should be documented, and who has access to the account. So for example, if you have a shared account, you should say why we need this shared account, and who will access this shared account, what are the users that will access this shared account, so we can hold them accountable for what happens later if there is a problem to happen. So, and how the risk of using the shared account is mitigated to include monitoring account activity. So also one of the things, we need to monitor this account very carefully through the event logs or whatsoever. We need to take care, because this account is used by more than one person. So he's saying if there is some situations you need to use a shared account, this should be documented, You should state the reason. You should say who will use this shared account. Okay, what are the persons or what are the users that will share this account? Okay, so if you don't need a shared account, so it should be removed from the system. Okay, this will apply to the Active Directory accounts and the shared and the local accounts. Okay, so this is one of the things we need to take care not to use shared accounts. And by the way, you should not, or users should not share their accounts between them, so because this will not be a good practice and we will not be able to know who accessed this account. If you are sharing your password and your account with another user, this will be a problem for the IT to know who is held accountable for a specific problem. So you need to keep your username and password for yourself. Okay, here another documentation is to must employ a deny all permit by exception policy to allow execution of authorized programs. So we should apply a policy to restrict access to programs and softwares on the Windows Server. So this will be done using something called App Locker. We will do this on Windows 10 workstations and on Windows Server servers. Okay, this is a way App Locker we will control which programs are authorized for execution or authorized for running or for the users to run them. This will be run using something called the whitelist. So we will control which programs are allowed to run and to be executed on Windows Server and Windows 10 using the App Locker. We will discuss this later because there is a separate documentation done by NASA. Okay, it's not NASA, the space organization. This is another one, something related to the Ministry of Defense or related to military. It is a military organization we'll discuss later. So there is something like a documentation on how to make a whitelist and apply it using the App Locker. We will discuss this later, but as a best practice we need to control which programs will run on Windows Server 2019 and Windows 10 workstations. This will be done using the App Locker and this will be applied. So we will make a whitelist for the programs that are authorized to run on both Windows Server 2019 and Windows 10, and then we'll push this whitelist through the group policy and it will be implemented by the App Locker option. Okay, so he's saying that organization must identify authorized softwares and only permit execution of authorized software. The process used to identify software programs that are authorized to execute on organizational information system is commonly referred to as whitelisting. And also how we know that that a certain software is authorized to run, this will be done using the whitelist and the App Locker. These two will work together to identify which programs are authorized to run. Okay, so we will do this later. Using the App Locker. I will make a dedicated video on how we can make a whitelist and use the App Locker to apply it to the servers and the machines. And by the way, if you need to know if the App Locker is working or not on a Windows Server or Windows 10, we will run a special PowerShell command and we will see if this command will return, or we will see the results of this command. It will return a file. If this file contains any data, then that means that the App Locker policy or the App Locker option is working and you are controlling which software to run on your server or on your Windows 10. If the file is empty, then that means that the App Locker policy or option is not applied. So we will see the documentation later. We will implement a guide on how to make the App Locker and the whitelist by an organization. It was published by an organization called NASA, NSA, not NASA, NSA. This is an agency related to the CIA, something related to the CIA. Okay, so anyway, we will see this documentation. I will give you a quick view on it, and we will dedicate a video on how to implement this documentation or PDF later. Okay, so now we need to do two things. First, we need to run the PowerShell command to see if we have the app locker policy applied already on our Windows server or not, and then we need to, I will give you a look on the documentation on the app locker and the whitelist, how we can do both and apply it to our domain or to our servers and workstations. First of all, we need to go and run this command on our domain controller. So let's see if we have the app locker applied on our domain controller, and then we will see if we have already applied it, and if it's not applied, we need to see the group policy that will apply it, and to see how we can make a whitelist of programs we need them to run on the domain controller, and how to apply them with the help of the app locker. Anyway, so we have a PowerShell session open to our domain controller. We have run the first PowerShell command to import the app locker module. This is to import the app locker command, and then we will run this line to export a file. This file will tell us if the app locker option is applied on the domain controller or not. First of all, we need to do something. We need to go to the C partition of the domain controller, and we will create a folder. This folder, a file will be submitted to it. This file, we will know from it if the app locker is working or not. Okay, so we will make a folder and we name it temp. Okay, and here a certain file will be created. Let's see what we mean by a certain file will be created. Let me first go again to the command that we have done on the domain controller. So if we go to the Windows Admin Center, if we go there, here we can see that. Let's first paste the command. So this command, it will get app locker policy on the domain controller, okay, and it will be exported an XML file in the folder that we have created earlier called temp. So we are telling him, please get us or tell us what is the app locker policy applied on the domain controller. App locker policy here means what are the programs that are authorized to run according to a whitelist implemented by the app locker. Okay, so this will be exported in a file. If we open this file, we will see what are the authorized programs to run. Okay, if the file is empty, then that means that the app locker policy is not applied yet. Okay, or it's not configured. So let's see. Here we have already exported the file. Let's go and see. We open again the C partition of the domain controller. Here we go. We go to the temp file, and then we have something called file.xml. If we open it, we can open it with Internet Explorer. You will see that it's already empty, so that means that we don't have any app locker policy. Okay, so this is something to take note of. And then there is a guide. Here we see it's from NASA. I will show you all this guide. How does it look? Okay, it's a PDF actually, about 34 pages. How we can apply or we create a whitelist of the programs that we need to run on any server or workstation, and then push it by a group policy with the help of the app locker option. Okay, app locker, it is an application installed on a Windows Server or Windows 10 that help us to control which programs to run or not. Here we can see this is, if we can go a little bit earlier here, so if we can go further again, so this is the PDF. Let me show you all. We will open it. It's from National Security Agency Central Security Service. So this is Central Security Service. I think this is maybe the CIA maybe, and the National Security Agency, this is a part of the Central Security Service. Anyway, I think it's something related to the CIA. Anyway, So it's called National Security Agency of the United States. So this is a PDF done by the National Security Agency of the United States. It will tell us how we can apply app locker policy to control which programs to run or not on a server or a workstation. So we have here about maybe 29 pages. We will discuss it later in a separate video. We will implement it and we will see how we can do this, okay? But we will not do it now, and we will discuss it bit by bit, so don't worry. So this is one of the recommendations. Now we can continue applying the other practices. Here we can see that he's telling us that we need to have any system that has joined the domain. The system could be Windows 10 or Windows Server. These systems that are installed on workstations or on servers, they should contain a hardware or a chip on their motherboard called Trusted Platform Module. Okay, Trusted Platform Module, this is a chip that is responsible for a lot of or some security things or some security situations. For example, if you are encrypting your data using BitLocker, so if you are encrypting your hard disk or your data on your hard disk, the encryption key will be saved to the Trusted Platform Module. Okay, and for example, if you are having a password and a username on your Windows and you need to save it to a safe place, something called Credential Guard. So the Credential Guard, this is an option in the Windows. Through it you can save your password and your username, and it will be encrypted. Okay, and the encryption key also should be saved to the Trusted Platform Module. So it is basically a chip to save most of your encryption keys. These encryption keys could be used for encrypting data or encrypting username and passwords. Okay, so he's saying Credential Guard uses virtualization based security to protect data that could be used in credential theft attacks if compromised. A number of these system requirements must be met in order for the Credential Guard to be configured and enabled properly. Without a TPM enabled and ready for use, Credential Guard keys are stored in less secure method using software. So he's saying here that for the Credential Guard to be working perfectly, okay, you should have a Trusted Platform Module chip on your motherboard. Okay, so for example, if the Credential Guard, you have used this option to save your passwords and usernames and to encrypt them sorry guys, okay, and to encrypt them, if you don't have a Trusted Platform Module, the encryption keys will be saved to a software, not a hardware, and this is less secure. He's saying that you can encrypt your username and passwords using the Credential Guard and save it to a software. This is less secure because the software could be hacked, but this chip or this let's say this chip on the motherboard or a hardware chip, not a software, will be more secure. It is more secure against hacking and just a minute guys. So he's saying here that saving your keys or encryption keys to a hardware, which is a chip on the motherboard, is more secure than saving it to a software. So for example, you can use the Credential Guard to save your passwords and encrypt them and save the encryption key to a software. This can be done, and also you can use BitLocker to encrypt your data on your hard disk and save the encryption keys to a software. This also could be done, but this is less secure. Okay, saving your encryption keys to a hardware or a chip on a motherboard, or especially the Trusted Platform Module, this is more secure. So he's saying that you should have Windows Server domain joined systems should have a Trusted Platform chip on their motherboard, and this also is another recommendation. Also for Windows 10, the same apply. Okay, so we need to have a Trusted Platform Module chip, and actually there is a lot of things. For example, if you don't have, here is saying that something like the UEFI secure boot is saying that for example, I think the secure boot will not work, I think, unless you have a TPM. Okay, I think this is this. Current hardware and virtual environments may not support virtualization based security, including a data interval, due to specific support and requirements, including a TPM and UEFI secure boot. Anyway, I think he is here saying that you need to make sure to have TPM. Okay, this is one of the best practices. How we can know this? We can go to the server and run a special command, and it will get us, or will tell us, if we have TPM installed or not. Okay, so this, we have done it before on Windows 10 to run something called TPM. Open the run box and then run tpm.msc. if we have any info, then we have our TPM installed. If you don't have any info, then that means that the TPM is not installed. We have done this before already, but let's go, and I think maybe we need to pass all of this, because we need to go to the server and run this command, or we can run a PowerShell command to get info about if we have a TPM or not. Okay, I think this will not do here, because I think this will not run. Okay, let's see. No, let me go further. Okay, let's go. Okay, here we go again. So actually, guys, the only thing we need to do is we can run a special PowerShell command to know if you have TPM. We have done this in Windows 10 recommendations. There is a PowerShell command. You can refer to the video and get this command and run it on the domain controller to see if you have a TPM chip installed or not. This can also be known from the information of the system. When you purchase the hardware, you can know. Okay, so this is the best practice. And then we need to make sure that Windows Server 2019 must be maintained at a supported servicing level. What we mean by this? Supports says servicing level. We all know that, for example, for Windows 10 it was issued, or it was working from 2015. Okay, so we have about now maybe 6 or 7 years we have Windows 10 in production, or it's working. Okay, Windows 10 have different versions. The first version of Windows 10 that was introduced, it was Windows 10 15.07. Okay, and this is not supported anymore by Microsoft. Okay, we have only 4 versions of Windows that are now currently supported by Microsoft, which is Windows 10 1909 and 2004 and 21H1 and 21, I think, H2 maybe, or 20H2. So all of these versions are supported by Microsoft. What we mean by supported by Microsoft, that they will receive security updates when any vulnerabilities appear. So these 4 systems of Windows 10 are still supported by Microsoft, and they will be receiving security updates to fix security issues in them. Okay, but as for example for Windows 10 version 15.07, it's not supported by Microsoft, and it will not receive any updates to fix any security issues with it. So the same applies, this for Windows 10, the same applies for Windows Server 2019. So you need to make sure that the version of Windows Server 2019 that you are working with is supported by Microsoft. Windows Server 2019 have the same concept like Windows 10. It is a lot of versions. So for example, you can have Windows Server 2019 version 15.07 or 1909 or 20H2, the same like Windows 10. So you need to see what is the servicing or the supported servicing level for the Windows Server 2019. So for example, we can have a little bit of a small search here. We can see, tell him, for example, we can tell him here if we need to know. Let's see here, or type, let's see, we will see Windows Server 2019 life cycle. So here we can see the Windows Server 2019 life cycle. Let's see here. Life cycle, it is November. It was started at November 13 2018, and it will end at Jan 2024. Okay, and it will have an extended date of Jan 2029. So we can see here that it have a life cycle, or it will be supported about from 2018 until 2024, and it can be extended to 2029. Let's see the different versions. So let's see versions life cycle. So let's see here release info. Let's see how much we can see here. Server current version. So here, for example, we can see that let's go to Windows Server 2019. So here we can see that there is Windows Server 2019 version 1809. So yes, it is 1311. Okay, and it will end 2024. So there is a version of Windows called Windows Server 2019, and there is another version called Windows Server version 1909. So I think 2019 actually again. So here, this is the version that you are working with. You need to go to Microsoft and see if it is still used or not. Okay, you need to know the version and to know if it's still supported by Microsoft or not. So this is how we can know that our system is supported or not, because based on this info we will build our upgrade plan. So for example, you need to know, for example, that after 2024 you need to have a plan to remove this system and install a new one. And based on this info, you need also to know when you need to upgrade your hardware, because the new system may need specific hardware to work with. So we need to have an upgrade plan based on the info on what or when the system will be ended. Okay, as a best practice, you can make it or make your upgrade plan for 3 years. So you can plan to change your operating system and your hardware every 3 years. This is done in our environment. Okay, so, or the environment that I was working with. So 3 years is good to change the hardware requirement for your workstations and for servers. Okay, as for routers and switches, this maybe take longer time because they have more supported or updated time, or they have more time for their firmware or their products to have more life cycle. Okay, so how we can know that this system is supported? Really, we can go to the command prompt and get the version of this Windows and go to Google and see if it is supported or not, the same that I have done now. Okay, so let's go and see the version of the server that I am working with. Okay, actually it is, I have installed Windows Server 2019. Okay, but I don't know actually the version. So we can go and run the command and see if it's already supported or not, or still supported by Microsoft or not. So let's go and see. So here I think I am going to another let's see what I am doing here. I think I am going to do another thing. Let's go continue working. Okay, no. Okay, again. So here we will go and go to the server itself and then type run in the run, or type this command winver, and see if my server have a supported, or I have installed a supported version for my domain controller. Let's go and see here, but this is not there. Let's continue also. Let's go trusted platform. We have done this. We need to go again. Let's go and continue again, servicing level. So actually guys, all you need to know or how we can know my version. Just simply we will go to the server. Okay, we can type here cmd. Okay, and so we go to the domain controller and type cmd, and then click winver.exe. We go to the domain controller and type this version. So here will give us the version. Okay, it should be Windows Server 2019 build or version 1809. This is the supported version, and this version will end at 2024. Okay, so this is the version we should consider. Okay, so this how we can know this, and this is one of the recommendations. And the other one, that your Windows Server should have an antivirus. This is a very logic thing to think of, because the antivirus is very important to protect the machine. How we can know the kind of antivirus we have on our server? We can simply go to the program and features and see if it is installed or not, or we can run a PowerShell command to see if we have a specific product of antivirus installed. So for example, here this is a command. Here we are telling him to search for the Windows Defender. This is the default antivirus installed on Windows. Okay, so if you need to, for example, tell him McAfee, we can change Defender to McAfee, and he will search and see if you have McAfee installed or not, or Norton. We will see this. Okay, and by the way, when you install a third-party software, not for example McAfee or whatsoever, it will disable the Windows Defender. So the Windows Defender is installed by default, or it is backed up with the Windows operating systems, Windows Server and Windows 10. So it is already there. If you install a third-party software, it will disable Windows Defender by default. So let's see, for example, he's saying here, if you need to know if there is McAfee, the same line applies, but you just remove Defender and tell him McAfee or Semantic, okay, or any antivirus. So let's see if we can know that we have an antivirus or a specific antivirus on our machine. Okay, so let's go and see how this can be known. We need to go to our domain controller, either by remote tools like Windows Admin Center, or go directly physically to the server and run the command. Okay, so let's see how we can run this command, but we need to get the whole line. It's not here. We need to get the whole line, copy it, and we need to run it on the domain controller. You can run it as from this remote tool or Windows Admin Center through the PowerShell remote session. You tell him paste and then press enter. Here we see that the result has appeared, saying that I have Windows Defender firewall. This is the firewall, and I have antivirus running, Windows Defender antivirus, and they have Windows Defender antivirus network inspection service. This is another kind of antivirus, okay, installed, and I have one antivirus service stopped. This is Defender Advanced Threat Protection Service. This is actually more specialized in malware. Okay, so these three services are for the Windows Defender antivirus. Two of them are working, one is not working, and the last one is for the Defender firewall. Okay, so this is how we can know that the antivirus is installed or not. This is one of the ways, or this is one of the things. So you need to have on your Windows Server systems to have an antivirus, and actually this also applies to the workstations that has Windows 10. Okay, anyway, another thing is to have something called host-based intrusion detection or prevention system. Okay, so this is another kind of protection, something not like an antivirus. It is basically a level of defense against unauthorized access to critical servers. So this prevents you from hacking. In very short terms, this intrusion detection system will help you all defend your server from hacking. Let's see what is intrusion detection. Okay, let's search a little bit here. What is host intrusion detection? Here is saying that a host intrusion detection is an intrusion detection system that is capable of monitoring and analyzing the internals of a computing system as well as the network packets on its network interfaces, similar to the way a network-based intrusion detection system operates. So what is a host intrusion detection? A system or a program employed to protect critical computer systems containing crucial data against viruses and other internet malware. So it is basically like the antivirus, but it is specialized actually more in preventing hacking or prevent hacking on your operating system, okay, and to monitor all of the resources of the system to know if there is any external access to it or unauthorized access to it. Okay, so this is basically what is an intrusion detection system. So here saying what is the difference between host intrusion detection and network intrusion detection. Anyway, I think we don't need to go further. So it's a host intrusion detection system. So we need to have a good host intrusion detection system. A host intrusion detection system is not required on a system that has the role as network intrusion device. Okay, so I think here this is not what we're talking about. Here we need to have a host intrusion detection system on our server or host intrusion protection system. So here saying you determine whether there is a host intrusion detection system or host intrusion, I think protection he means here host intrusion prevention system. So it's host intrusion detection or host intrusion intrusion prevention. Let's see what is the difference. Okay, actually, because I am here, I'm not familiar with what is HIPS, host-based prevention system. Okay, this is prevention. It's a system or program employed to protect critical. So this is host prevention. So what about high HDS? Let's see here. Host-based intrusion detection and host-based. Anyway, I think we do the same, but what is the difference between HIDS and yes, this one. And host intrusion, the difference between between HID and IPS and an antivirus. So here let's see this question. He's saying that D stands for detection. It means that the protection system will be able to detect and alert upon a possible security event, but it will not attempt to block anything. Okay. The P stands for prevention. This means when the protection system detects a possible security event, it will automatically try to block it. Okay, so since an antivirus main use is to actively block the access to files detected as malicious, then it will never be an HIP and SID. So I think basically here is saying that one to detect and other to prevent. So I think here is saying that either you need to must have an host intrusion, say host intrusion detection or prevention. So you have either or. Okay, so I think better to have HIPS. Okay, so I think this is better. Okay, anyway, so he's saying here that we need to have a host intrusion prevention. He's saying here. Okay, so or I think it's not detection. I think better to have a prevention. Okay, not detection only. So anyway, this is also one of the things to take care. Okay, and then another recommendation: local volumes must use a format that supports NTFS attributes. So here The ability to set access permissions and auditing is critical to maintain the security and proper access controls of a system. To support this, volumes must be formatted using a file system that supports NTFS attributes. So here we need to know, or we need if we need to get or to control who access our files on our Windows Server operating systems, we should have the hard disk that contain these files to be using a file system called NTFS. So NTFS system on our hard disk will help us to control who can access the files on these hard disks and to monitor them as well. So the ability to set access permissions and auditing is critical to maintain the security and proper access controls of a system. To support this, volumes must be formatted using a file system that supports NTFS. So how we can know? So he is saying basically that your hard disks on your servers or Windows Server 2019 operating system should have the hard disks supported or running NTFS system, or to be formatted as NTFS. So we need to go to the hard disk of the server and see if our hard disk is formatted as NTFS. Okay, so let's see how also we can do this. We can go to the console here, and then we can connect to our server or domain controller and disk management. Here we can see that we have the we have two hard disks on the domain controller, C and D. Both are file system is NTFS. So this means that we are good to go. We have control, or we can control who can access files on these two partitions because we have NTFS system on these two. Okay, so this is also one of the best practices to do, is to have your volumes formatted as NTFS when you have Windows Server 2019 installed system. Okay, so this is one of the things. And then another thing here is to have your system drive root directory, usually C, must conform to minimum requirements. Here what we can say, he is saying here that your C partition, this is normally the partition that the operating system is installed on. We need to know, or we need to control the permissions to access these partitions. So C is the partition that the operating system is installed on. We need to know who can access this partition and control who can access it using permissions or NTFS permissions. So changing the file system, files and directory permissions allow the possibility of unauthorized and anonymous modification to the operating system and installed application. The default permissions are acquired when the security option network access let everyone permission applied to anonymous users is disabled. We have discussed this option before. We should disable in our Active Directory the option for giving the anonymous users the permissions of everyone group. So this should be noted, and we should see the permissions on the partition C, who can access the partition and what he can do, read or change or whatsoever. So here we need to take care. Okay, we need to see who have access to the C partition, okay, on our servers. Basically, if you don't change anything or you leave everything to the default, authenticated users will have read and execute maybe. So here we can run a command on the domain controller and see who have access to the C partition. Okay, who have access to the C partition. So we can run a command in the PowerShell remotely to execute it on the domain controller, or we can go to the domain controller directly and see what are the rights on it. So we can go there. Here I will go to the domain controller. So let's go to the domain controller, or okay, I will stop at this recommendation. We will do this the upcoming video. So we will stop at this recommendation here. I'm just typing it. We will stop at the recommendation for checking the permissions on the C partition on our Windows Server servers or Windows Server 2019 operating system. So hope this video informative you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.